So I'm back with another movie review. And this movie, I feel like they took too long to make this movie. Okay, so this is the sequel, y'all. If y'all remember the movie that they made years ago called Enchanted, that movie, I gotta admit, it was cute. I'm not gonna lie. Now, if you've seen any amount of my videos, and I'm gonna keep saying this, okay, I believe in God, so I'm not here for all this, magic, which is basically witchcraft. Now, like I've said before, because I know some people are gonna get smart and be like, well, why did you watch the movie anyways? First of all, this is the second part of a movie that I saw years ago, and second of all, I am a reviewer of movies, so there. All right, take it or leave it. You don't have to watch it. I don't care. Now, I'm not here for all of this magic and stuff. But I will admit that that movie was cute. Whenever she came from literally like cartoon land and then fell into the real world, and he like caught her after she was falling from off of that, I forgot what it's called. And their classic line, is this a habit of yours, falling off of rooftops and whatnot? And that was a line that he said to her at the end, and you knew that they had fell in love, and it was a wrap after that. And it's funny that she maintained her character through all those years. Like, now y'all remember whenever she first met them, the girl, Morgan, she was like 9 or 10, if I'm not mistaken. Now she's like a teenager. So this has like been like what? Like 5, 6, 7 years into the future now. And they've had a new little baby. Her name is Sophia. I will affectionately be calling her the baby throughout this entire review, probably. But anyways, it's funny that she never once lost her character throughout that whole entire time, and that she was still learning stuff like sarcasm. She was like, oh yeah, I'm so happy that we're moving away from all of my friends into the middle of nowhere where I know nobody and nothing. She was like, oh, that was sarcasm, wasn't it? Like, you didn't really mean that, did you? And she was like, And then just leaves her, like, to ponder whether or not she actually is happy that they're leaving or not. I'm like, now don't do that to your stepmother. Come on now. That's not nice. This is a nice lady. Come on now. And when you really think about it, Morgan had it made in the shade, okay? Her father was practically rich, okay? She had a nice house. Her stepmother was a nice person. You know how many times, like the stereotypical situation where the stepmother is evil? Her stepmother was a very nice lady. But anyways, so she's like all happy because they're moving to a place that I feel like really suits like her character, her characteristics, because like, she did come from like a fairy tale, and that house screamed fairy tale. Let's just be honest. It was really cute. I'm not gonna lie. That house was cute, y'all. In the yard with the wishing well. I don't know how I feel about wishing wells because of some of the stuff that's like tied to wishing wells, but I'm not gonna go there. But it was cute. All of it was cute. The entire house, the property, everything. Of course, it was a bit of a fixer-upper, but nothing a little elbow grease and some determination can't fix, right? And it was funny because, like, she was so used to it. Like, whenever they got to the house, she was like, look, you just got to have a little faith. And just like, it's just a little fixer-upper. And then she started singing. And she was like, please don't start singing. And she was, like, running around, like, jumping from here to there, singing. And, like, this is while the people are still moving. Like, the moving company is still moving stuff. And they're, like, looking at her like, oh, look at this lady. And Morgan is like, welcome to my life. And she just seemed kind of like, I guess, dull to it all, Like, it was nice to know that, like, her and, I forgot what his name was, her husband were still, like, good. Like, it seemed like their romance had matured, Like, they were still in love, but they weren't, like, super, like, all over each other. Like, and I'm not saying anything bad about that. Like, you want to live in the honeymoon phase with your husband, your wife, whatever. But it just seemed like they had, like, a mature romance. And it was good. I was glad that their relationship was still good, because sometimes these things deteriorate if we're not careful over time. And so she was like, all happy, and they were moving in, and she was not having it. She was like, I don't like it here. I don't want to go to this new school. They were bullying her. And then the part where like, they were like, we have a surprise for you. And they brought her up to the top part of you might as well call it a castle at this point. Just go ahead, succumb to it. And they showed her room. It was really cute, and it was like shaped like a circle, which I was like, girl, why are you complaining? You want to know what my room is shaped like? A square, like everybody else's. Shut up and be happy for your unique circle-shaped room and take it and be grateful. But anyways, all of her stuff was in there, and she was like, "This is my room," and they were like, "Yes, this is your room." And they like tried to flick the light on, and I guess there was some electrical work that needed to be done, and something caught on fire and burned all of her clothes. And I kind of was sad for her because, listen, don't mess with somebody's clothes, okay? But anyways, she was like, "Those were my clothes." And she was like, "I'm so sorry, Morgan." And then she ended up having to sleep in their room. She was like, "I thought we moved out here so that we could have more space." And he was like, "Morgan, calm down. It's just temporary until we fix your room. Like, you'll be fine. Like, just calm down." And she was like, "Yeah, okay. What about my clothes or whatever?" So she goes back to sleep, and then she lets Morgan borrow some of her clothes. I just thought that it was so cute. I'm not gonna lie, yo. It was cute. Like, when she let her borrow her dresses, she was basically dressing just like how she was dressing. I thought it was so cute, I'm not gonna lie. But anyways, it was cute though, but anyways. And so it kind of was off to a rough start, to be honest. Robert was like, "Listen," I remembered his name. Robert was like, "Okay, so I gotta get up early so that I can like commute to and from the job." He was like trying to, hurry up, get the toast, get the coffee. He didn't accidentally spilled coffee all over Morgan's only remaining outfit that she had. That's why she had to wear like the dresses and stuff. And Morgan is like, "I hate this new school. I don't fit in. They're bullying me." But she did find, a boy. Usually that fixed the problem real fast. And she was like, "Oh, but and I don't even think that, like, I get it, but there was like the silver lining, you know what I'm saying? Like, she could have been like, "Okay, yeah, everything is going to the trash, but I did meet this boy though," you know what I'm saying? But anyways, and then Gazelle was trying to like make the best out of it, and then that's when Nancy and Edward showed up. And it was funny because they were in the middle of talking about, I forgot what they were talking about, and they just heard like this rumbling, and I'm like, "Oh God, what is it now?" Like, it's a little too early for the villain to be introduced, isn't it? And so they look outside, and there's like this, like, I guess fairy dust looking kind of thing like going around the whale. And I was like, "See, I told y'all, them whales, they don't be something ain't right about them." And so anyways, they just pop up out of the whale, literally. And I'm like, "What?" Like, when I tell you I laughed, I was like, "What is going on here?" And they were like, "Oh, we had to use another portal, like, to come from, our world to yours." And I was like, "So y'all just decided to use the wishing well?" And I didn't think, what if somebody was like, "Oh, I don't know, looking down into the whale when you popped up through it?" But anyways, they were like, "Oh, this is your new home. It's so beautiful." And y'all, Edward, every single movie, he cracks me up. Like, the guy who plays him, like, did such a good job. Like, and then too, even in the last movie, like I said, that scene, and I'm not making fun of people getting hit by vehicles. Please don't think that that's what I'm doing here. In the previous movie, whenever he was standing, I think he was standing under the bridge, and he forgot, like, you're not in Indonesia no more. And things don't work like that, okay? You standing in the middle of the street, you about to get hit, because this is New York, okay? They will run you over and keep going. They got places to be. And he was standing under that bridge, and he was trying to start like a whole musical number, and them cyclists ran into him. Y'all, I still think about that to this day, and I laugh. I'm sorry. It was funny. I'm not making fun of people who've been hit by cars and vehicles, But that scene was hilarious. Anyways, him coming up there talking about Robert, I had tears in my eyes, and they were like, "Oh, this is so," Nancy was like, "Oh, this is so beautiful," and this dude gonna say, "Have you lost your job? Did y'all go destitute, basically?" And he was like, "No, we just moved out to the suburbs." He was like, "Yikes, okay." And he was like, "You should like take my sword." And he was like, "I mean, we don't really like use those kind of things here." And he was like, "But take it anyways." He was like, I've slain many of beasts with it. You should take it just in case." And the funny part was, despite him not wanting to take it, I'm like, what is he gonna do walking around with a rapier in the middle of the day for no reason? Him having that sword came in stupid handy later on. So he was like, "Okay, fine." He was like, "I'll just give it to you as like a gift." And he was like, "Okay, fine." And he's just carrying a sword around. He's like, "I gotta go to work now. I'll see y'all later." He gets on the transit, and they got people, I guess they've been taking the transit since the summer of 1950. And they were like, "Oh, it's the same thing. You get up, You get on a train, you go to work, you go back home. You get up, get on the train, go to work, go back home until you poop out. And I'm just like, why would you tell him that? He's new to this. Like, that's the equivalent of somebody who just got on the job and they're like, oh, it's good until it's miserable. Like, why would you do that? And he's just sitting there like, like he's not too sure that he wants this to be his life. And so, like I said, and then there's a thing with Morgan, and then she was just trying to help Morgan out. And then, there's always those people everywhere you go in society, in the neighborhood, a part of the, what do you call it, the parent-teacher council, whatever, that just feel like and act like they run everything. That woman was annoying. I was like, she need to sit down. She need to go sit down somewhere. But anyways, so her name is Malvina, and she comes up with her two little posse members. That's what I call them, because I can't remember the names. I barely remembered her name. And she just had that fake nice, nice nasty attitude. And Gazelle was just trying to be friendly and helpful. She legit was like, she was so humble. She was like, oh, well, anywhere I can help you, like, you just let me know. I'm here to help you. She was like, oh, really? And she was looking at Gazelle like another footstool to rest her feet on, basically. And Gazelle was like, loyalty and submission, basically. And so she was trying to cook, I think she baked some rolls, or not some rolls, it was like some muffins, and was like telling people, oh yeah, my daughter Morgan this, and you should vote for her, running for student council that. And she was like, what are you doing? You're embarrassing me. And then doggone it, Malvina comes up and was like, you're not supposed to have a table out here without a permit. Never once told her this. And then was treating her like she was the dum-dum for not knowing. She was like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. And she was like, ladies, break that table down. And I'm like, that's so mean. That's so mean. Like I said, just nasty, mean girl. And Gazelle was still trying to make the most out of it. And then they got into a fight. I was like, dang, she's just trying to get the pep in the step back. She was like, I feel like, we're losing the oomph. I used to be able to tell these stories and you would get excited and you were happy. Now you're not happy anymore. And Robert was like, listen, she's just going through the teenage years. This is how they call it here. I don't know what happened in Andalasia, but here the teenage years are hell. Okay. So you're just going to have to survive through it. They got into it and she was like, you're not my mom. And Robert was like, you better apologize, young lady. And this is after she didn't came home late and she didn't even apologize. They blowing up her phone trying to figure out where she is. They just worried. He was like, you're going to apologize. And she was like, yeah, okay. And then she just stumps up to her room. I was listening. I don't know how they do it in Andalasia or New York, but in certain households, if that was my sister, listen, all kinds of you don't run nothings and that and this and that's would have been going back and forth. And she would I wish you would go up to that room and slam that door. I'll take it off the hinges. But anyways, he was like, I'm going to talk to her tomorrow morning. She's not going to get away with this. And she's like, don't worry, Gazelle. We're going to make this right. And he was still trying to like I said, be hopeful. And she was just like, where did I go wrong? And then Pip comes up there and he was like, speaking his little chipmunk. For some reason, he just kept reminding me of Alvin and the Chipmunk. And of course, it's because he was a chipmunk and he had that stereotypical high-pitched voice. I don't know what other kind of voice he's going to have, because if he had a deep one, that would be scary. But it reminded me of Alvin and the Chipmunks. I'm just going to put that out there. It was living rent-free in my head. Welcome to my head. So he was like, what is it, Gazelle? What's wrong? And she was like, oh, I just don't know where I went wrong. I'm just trying to get the pep in the step back. And I don't know what to do. And she's like, oh, the wishing wand. And I'm like, really? A wishing wand? I could have told her that wasn't going to go well. But that was what Edward and Nancy had left. They had brought her a gift. And they were telling her, here's the contract. Make sure you consult the directions and the contract before you use this. Because it's a very powerful tool. And when they said that, I was like, somebody's about to mess up something with that wand. And they were saying only people who are from Andalasia can use it. You're a true daughter of Andalasia, so you can use it. And your daughter is your daughter, so she's a daughter of Andalasia. And she was like, oh, little Sophia, you're a daughter of Andalasia, a true daughter of Andalasia, so you'll be able to use the wand too one day if you want. And of course, Morgan took it personally, and she was like, Well, I guess this fake daughter of Andalasia will go up and be in her room. And I was like, you didn't even have to take it like that, Morgan. Come on now. They weren't even trying to throw shade at you like that. But anyways. And so they were telling her, like, they were doing the whole singing musical number. And listen, from the very beginning, I was like, I need to know when the soundtrack. I need to know when the soundtrack is coming out, because they hitting these harmonies. These harmonies are hitting, okay? I will admit. Like, when I was listening to the two of them sing, listen, I forgot what her name was, but the actress that played as Queen Nancy, she's also the actress that is the singing voice of Elsa from Frozen. So you already know she's got the vocal windpipes, okay? But listening to her sing, my goodness, like, that woman has a beautiful voice. But anyways, listening to them harmonize was like a treat. And I was like, man, like, this is beautiful. And they were telling her about the wand. And I was like, she needs to be paying attention, because if she decides to use that, which I hope she doesn't, because I know she's going to mess something up if she does, she's going to need to know what to do. She didn't once consult that scroll. Like, that's how I knew something was about to get messed up. Like, Pip was over there. She was like, oh, I'll just use the wand. We can make everything better again. He was like, I hope you know what you're doing. And I knew when he said that, she didn't know what she was doing. She didn't once consult that scroll. And I was like, I don't like this. They tried to throw you for a loop by making it seem like she didn't change nothing. When she went outside and she was singing and she had the wand, I was like, you don't think your neighbors can hear you? But anyways, and she was like singing and wishing that basically their life was like a fairy tale. And then it didn't seem like anything happened. But then she went to bed, and when she woke up the next morning, everything was different. Their house really actually did look like a castle more than it did before. And the part where Morgan's room was like the elongated part of a castle. I was like, okay. And then her husband, he had that sword that Edward gave him, and he was like, I'm going out to slay a dragon or something like that. And she was like, okay, be careful with that. I'll be waiting for you when you come back home. He was like, toodaloo, my wife. And then he goes off to slay a dragon, I guess, which what did the dragons do, unless they were causing trouble. And then Morgan was dressed like Little Red Riding Hood, and she was like, good morning, mother. And she was like, Morgan, like, she was all surprised and shocked, because she was like singing good morning, and like they were like, skipping around in circles, and she was like, what's the occasion? And she was like, oh, it's just such a beautiful day today. And she's trying to figure out what happened, and she realizes, like, oh, the wand, like the wand changed everything. And then they go to the town square. She thinks everything's fine and back to normal. Or, well, not normal, but back to some kind of, I don't know, something, I guess. She goes to the town square, and she finds out that Melvina is the evil queen, basically. Which, that's what she wanted to be anyways. So, I guess the characters were a little too set in their respective tropes. Whatever. And so, Pip was like, yeah, like, she's definitely evil. Like, look at her. And, Gazelle was like, in her little innocent, trying to just give everybody the benefit of the doubt mind. Oh no, like, she couldn't be evil. She's like, there's already a villain in this series, right? Or well, she hadn't come to that conclusion yet. But she was like, no, she can't be evil or whatever. And he was like, Gazelle, look at her. She screams evil. And she was like, oh, there's going to be a ball or whatever. And she was like, everybody, needs to show up or whatever, blah, blah, blah. So eventually she realizes, she starts to have this weird, like, back and forth, almost like split personality thing that was scaring me. Whenever, like, I think it was like a bell that was like ringing, or it was the clock, right, that was ringing. And she would change, and she would like become like really vain and a little evil. And she'd be like, wait a minute, that's not me. What's going on here? She slowly starts to realize that she's turning into the evil stepmother. Now, this is why I say things like, read the directions before you do anything. If it comes with directions, it comes with directions for a reason. Read them. She was like, I don't understand. And then Pip's trying to help her understand, well, you wanted the perfect fairy tale. I don't think we didn't realize that, like, you're the stepmother. And usually, like, in fairy tales, the stepmother is evil. She's the evil stepmother. And I was like, dang it. They actually have a point, though. But at the same time, I was like, but they didn't specifically say like the ones where a stepmother is evil. But at the same time, I was like, but like when you really think about it, Cinderella, uh, Snow White, all of the stepmothers were evil. All the stepmothers were evil. I mean, one could debate, like I said, a perfect fairy tale where that would insinuate that things are perfect, like nothing is bad, nothing is evil, nothing goes wrong. I didn't say an accurate fairy tale, I said a perfect one. So you could argue that point, but at the same time, again, in those fairy tales, the stepmothers, they be evil. She was like, oh no, we got to figure out how to undo this. And then, like I said, she runs into Melvina, and she was like, no, that she can't be evil because there can't be two villains in one story. Like, I don't know when that ever became a set in stone rule, but so then she was like, no, this can't be. Like, she didn't want to come to grips with it. I didn't want to come to grips with it for her. And then she goes up to Morgan's room and she opens the door, and it looks like that room has not seen any kind of vacuum cleaner, any kind of renovation since it was made. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's been up there living in that rat trap of a room. Like, and she was like, I can't believe I had my daughter in here. And I was like, she done it. She done made herself the evil stepmother. I hope you're happy now. And so she was like, I can't believe this. And everybody was talking about going to the ball, and she was like, okay, I gotta treat Morgan. I gotta do something good for Morgan. So she goes out to get like some dresses. Mind you, nobody's explaining where this money's coming from. Like, Robert is an adventurer. I don't know who's paying him for this. Where is their income coming from? But I guess this is a fairy tale. We ain't gotta worry about that kind of stuff. She buys Morgan this beautiful dress, and then it just ends up like shredded, and then the scissors falls from under her dress, and she goes, whoops, how did those get down there? And she didn't even realize that it was her that messed up the dress. And she was like, oh, Morgan, I'll just buy you another one. She was like, oh, it's okay, it was beautiful while it was out. And she was like, it was okay. And then she's got on these elaborate dresses, because when she was wearing her regular dresses, even when she was in the fairy tale, yeah, they were cute, but they were like regular dresses. But these dresses, listen, she was trying to be a bad mama jamma, okay? You know, like when you've got like church and then you've got like the Holy Convocation, she was aiming for Holy Convocation levels of fashion, okay? And then that's when that vanity, and there's nothing wrong with looking nice, but it had gotten so bad with her. She was basically like, I look better than anybody else, and that's how it's gonna be. Like anybody in my house, even the queen. And I was like, oh my God, here we go. And even with, you know, Melvina, the queen, the evil queen, she was like, mirror, mirror on the wall, tell me who's the most beautiful of them all. And the mirror was like, listen, please. And she was like, what was taking you so long? And he was like, I just didn't want to end up in pieces on the floor. And when he said that, I had tears in my eyes. That was hilarious. And they had the whole, like, you know, ball thing coming up. And I was like, and of course, the guy she's interested in is her son, of course. And she was like, stepmother, I just want to go to the ball. And she was like, that's too bad. You've gotta sweep out the chimney. She's like, oh, I already did that last night. And she was like, clear out the cobwebs. Oh, I did that this morning. Flip everybody's mattresses over 3 times. I did that earlier today. She was like, well, do it again. And she was like, but stepmother, please don't be this cruel to me. And I was like, this is kind of sad, y'all. She was like, don't do this to me, stepmother, please. She's like, you're not going to the ball. You're staying right here in this room. And then literally locks her in the room. And I'm like, listen, somewhere that's child abuse, right? That is child abuse. And she was like, please, stepmother, don't do this to me. And then she like walks off. And then Pip transforms into a cat. I was like, that's funny. And he was funny looking, I'm not gonna lie. And he was basically like, I can't believe I'm turning into a cat. I'm looking myself in places I never imagined. And then, of course, the evil witch's little two posse members had to, you know, well, what is this that's going on? It's clearly there's something is different here. And then they find out that she has the wand. And then they go and they get the wand and the paper. And then they do what she should have done, which was consult the scroll, even though he really didn't want to, she consulted him after the fact. So by that time, it was a little too late. But they did still what she should have did, which was consult the scroll first. But it didn't matter anyways because she couldn't use it because she wasn't from Andalasia. So it didn't matter anyways. She just happened to know the rules. So when they just consulted the scroll, they find out that basically like they had to, he was telling them like how to basically undo it. And I was like, y'all, I don't know if they gonna make it. He was talking about before the clock strikes 12. And I was like, it seemed like to me, they took every single fairy tale. Like I said, Snow White, Cinderella. There was another one that they were doing heavy on in there. And they just mashed them all together. And I was saying maybe they got permission to use these tropes because I don't see how they didn't get out of some lawsuits because they were, like I said, they were really heavy on some of the main fairy tales. But anyways, because like I said, the stuff that she was going through, like I said, the evil stepmother, the whole clock striking 12 before midnight, and she was, she had got ready for the ball. Anyways, she had got ready for the ball, and Morgan was missing because she was supposed to be in the room, but then she did the stereotypical tie a sheet to another sheet and escaped the room. And still almost got caught. Well, she did. And she was like, oh, you think you're so slick. I'm gonna find somewhere to put you. I got something for you. She was like, no. And then that's when finally, like, Gazelle snapped into it. And she was like, oh my God, Morgan, I'm so sorry. And she was like, you're scaring me. And I was like, you're not the only one she's scaring. And she was like, it's the wand. I tried to wish for a perfect fairy tale. I messed everything up. And I didn't realize what it was going to do to us. You have to go to Andalasia. And you have to get some help. And she was like, but I don't know if I can do that. She was like, you are literally the only person who can. And she pushes her down the well. And I was like, I mean, isn't that kind of dangerous? But anyways, because Robert was still out trying to go slay dragons and was failing miserably. And then by the time he comes back, because he kind of was playing the stereotypical husband in that kind of situation who's pretty blind to his wife's vices. And so he's like, they're riding in the carriage, and she turned into that stepmother for real. He was stepmother for real. And he was like, where's Morgan? And she was like, I don't know. Like, I mean, she didn't even try to hide that she didn't care about that girl. And he was like, I'm gonna go find my daughter. She was like, fine, go ahead. I'll be going to the ball without you then. Hope you don't fall into a hole or get roasted by a dragon on the way. And even if you do, like, I got your money anyways. And I was like, she's a little too good at this. He's trying to find Morgan. And meanwhile, she wakes up in Andalasia and she sees all of the magic from Andalasia basically being sucked out of them to go to the real world to make this perfect fairy tale become a perfect fairy tale. And she's talking to Nancy and Edward, and she's like, I don't understand what's going on here. Like, my stepmother described this place, and it does not really look more remotely like how she described it. And they were saying, well, yeah, that's because it's not supposed to look like this. Like, all the magic is going to your world because of something that happened. She was like, oh, well, Gazelle kind of made a wish with that wand. And they were like, did she not consult the scroll? And she was like, I just know she made a wish to get a perfect fairy tale, and now everything's going haywire. And they were like, we gotta do something. We gotta help her remember who she is. And that was when, like I said, that lady that played as the voice of Elsa started singing, and a little tear started to form in my eyes because of how beautiful it was. And for a moment, I completely forgot what they were supposed to be doing. But she was basically saying, like, remember all the times of memories. And she was, like, touching those memories. And that was a cute scene, y'all. She was touching those memories. She's like, you got to remember. You got to help her remember, okay? And she had that little thing that she had made with, like, all the little pictures of them. Like, kind of like almost like a family tree. But it was more like a memory tree, so to speak. And she was like, I think I know what to do. And she goes back to their world. The young man who she had a crush on, who clearly had a crush on her, he was there looking for her at the ball. And he was so upset because he was like, she's not even here. And like she had told him that she was going to go with him. And that was like one of the begging points. She was like, please, I told him I was going to go with him. And I don't want to stand him up. And she was like, girl, I don't care. Get in that room. And then click, locks her in there. But anyways, she was like, wait, stop. It's me. I'm sorry. I got held up. Can you take me to the ball, please? And he was like, sure. Like, he didn't even care. He was like, girl, hop on this horse and let's go to the ball. was waiting for you. Where you been at? And then they go back to the ball, and all hell is breaking loose. And he was like, what is going on? And she was like, my stepmother then did something and we got to undo it. And then she meets with her father there. And he's like, oh, thank goodness, thank heavens. He was like, where have you been? And then she's trying to explain all of what happened, or what's going on real quick, because everything's falling apart. And then for the life of me, I don't understand how they just carrying on. I know they had some windows and somebody was like, hey, something is going on outside. But it wasn't until it really got bad that they actually responded. But anyways, she was trying to get the wand back. Then she got the wand back, before this. She sent the cat to go get the wand back. That was funny. He basically was like, oh, don't worry. Don't leave it to me, Gazelle. I'll go and get the wand back. He literally steals the wand back. And he was like, I like being bad. And I was like, this is bad. And then he gives her the wand back, and then he gets stuck in the carriage. And so she takes the wand, and she's basically like, I didn't told you before. Like, they had a whole musical number, and I was like, y'all, listen to these lyrics. She was like, I'm the baddest one. I'm the baddest one. I am better. And she was basically like, you got two choices. She was like, but before the ball gets here, either you can surrender your crown to me, or we're gonna have a problem. She was like, in your dreams. And it's just the back and forth between them. For me, she was like, remember what I told you I was going to do whenever I came to your house? I'm here to do it. And then they start fighting and using witchcraft, basically, to fight. They messing up the room. People are screaming and running because they don't even care that Andalasia is literally like forcing itself into the real world. They're fighting. Everybody's like, oh my God, they about to destroy everything. And then Morgan gets there and she is trying to stop them. And she's like, stepmother, like, remember everything, remember? And she was like, what are y'all talking about? Y'all get out of my face. Like, she was literally about to do, I don't think y'all understand. I think she was about to do Melina in. I honestly do. But because Morgan distracted them and stopped the fight, and she was like, look, mother, and like gives her the little thing, and she looks at it, and I'm like, well, maybe she'll remember. And before I could even get the sentence out of my mouth, she just rips it into pieces. And Nancy was like, no, Gazelle. I was like, well, it's too late now. I think it's too late. And by that time, it was like 5 minutes to midnight or something like that. And I was like, could y'all not move a little bit faster? I don't know the timeline, but I know it didn't take y'all that long, because whenever this was happening, I think it was like 12 in the afternoon or something like that. Or it might have been 3 in the evening. I don't know. Not in the evening, in the afternoon. It wasn't that late. So you mean to tell me it took that long for y'all to do all of this? But anyways. So, she's like, no, Gazelle. And then the memories start to like bubble up. And I'm like, so was that supposed to happen? Or is this like plot convenience? And so she starts to like remember stuff. She was like, oh, and then finally she comes back and she was like, what have I done? I'm so sorry. And by that time, like I said, it was too late. Like, it was like, it had skipped to like 2 minutes before midnight. And so Melina was like, well, it's too late. Like, you're not about to change this. This is about to stay. It's about to stay the way it is, because I like it like this. Like, I like being in charge. Basically, she likes being evil, and she likes being able to run people for once, finally. She actually had a station to be able to run people, like how she always wanted to. And then everything from Andalasia started to disappear. And so it was bad, because that meant Andalasia. That meant, that also meant Gazelle. That meant Edward. And I was like, everybody from Andalasia is going to be gone. Basically converted to energy to turn this place into the perfect fairy tale. I was like, dang, this really all comes full circle. And it's not going to end well for Gazelle. She tries to take Morgan hostage whenever nobody was looking. Like, really? You going to take And then, what's his name? Her son was like, really, Mom? Like, you knew I liked it, her. Why would you do that to her? And she was basically like, boy, shut up and sit down. Like, I'm supposed to do what I'm supposed to do, okay? Now, and then she was like, give me the wand. And they basically had to trade the wand for Morgan's life. Then, to make things even worse, Melina steps on the wand and breaks it. So there's nothing they could do there. And so Morgan was like, what do I do? Like, we tried everything. There's nothing we can do. And she was like, oh, well, you've got to believe in you. And it's you. Like, I know that they said that you weren't a true daughter of Andalasia, but you're my daughter. So that makes you a true daughter of Andalasia. And I wasn't quite buying that because that's not how genetics work, but I'm here for her accepting her as her daughter, despite the whole step thing, and her not calling her stepdaughter. I'm here for that. I appreciate that. I feel like people should do that more often. But I was like, but you ain't fooling me. I know biology. That's not how biology works. Y'all are not blood related. So, but she insisted. She was like, you're my daughter, so you are a daughter of Andalasia. Like your love for me has power. And they were singing, love power and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, are y'all sure that's gonna go over well? Are y'all sure this is gonna work? And the clock was just a ticking. And Robert was like, I gotta give it to Robert, man. He was the man for real. He was like, no, I'm not settling for this. Like, we're going to figure out something to do. And he was like, he told the young man, he was like, come with me. We just to do something. And he was very quick thinking. And he went up to that, to the actual like clock. And he was like, if this is permanent by midnight, it's not about to be midnight. And he like stabs it. And he's like, come on, help me. And he was like, oh yeah, I see what you're doing. Mr. My future father-in-law, and he stabs, they stabbing the gears of the clock to make it hold where it is. And I was like, okay, you know what? That's about the smartest thing I have seen anybody in this entire movie do, aside from Morgan with them picture memories. He was like, it's not about to be no midnight. We just to hold it to right where it is. A second before midnight. It's not about to be midnight. And they just holding it. And I'm like, did y'all have any other kind of plan though after that? Like, did y'all didn't think are you going to do something while we're like holding it for everybody's lives? Like, I'm like, I hope they come up with something. And meanwhile, like Gazelle is taking forever to tell Morgan what she has to tell her about the whole love power thing. She's like, you can do this, Morgan, and blah, blah, blah. She's like, no, I can't. She's like, yes, you can. And then I guess she kind of like passes out, I guess. And then, like I said, I was like, y'all might as well go ahead and surrender to it. But somehow it worked. It ended up working. Like Melvina was like, hold on, what's going on here? And she looks up. She finally uses her brain and looks up and was like, oh, no, you can't do that. And then like almost blew up everybody to try to stop them from stopping the clock from hitting midnight. And like I said, I didn't think that they were going to actually be able to pull this off because it just didn't make sense a lot to me. But I guess that's the point because it's like fiction. It's fake. It's fairy tale. I really did not think that they were going to make it. But she picks up that piece of a wand and then she makes a wish that everything would return back to normal. But basically like that she had her normal life back. As Melvina is breaking the clock tower or trying to just blow up everybody so that she could have what she wants. And then everything is turned back to normal. I'm like, I'll eat the wolf cookies because that was nerve-wracking, okay? I was scared for them. Everything goes back to normal. But apparently nobody actually remembered anything past like it being a bad dream or something like that. Except for like Gazelle, I think. It was like her and Gazelle and probably baby Sophia, but she was a baby, so she was probably going to forget by the time she was old enough to talk about it anyways. Robert wakes up and he was like, I had this crazy dream. I had that sword that Edward gave me, and I was trying to slay dragons, and it wasn't working. And she was like, oh, Robert, and they were like hugging and whatnot, and I was like, okay, so are we satisfied with our lives now? We're not gonna do any crazy things, ask for any crazy wishes. We're not gonna require any crazy things or wishes to like change anything. Have you learned our lesson? And even Morgan was like, I love you guys. Like, can we just keep things as normal? Melvina was like, I had a dream that I was the queen. Why I couldn't stay that way? And her posse was like, I had a dream that I was a frog. What was up? Because remember, she turned them into frogs, y'all. That's how she rewarded her loyalty. That's how evil she was. She turned them into frogs. Just to test something out, I think it was. Or she had gotten mad about something. She turned them into frogs. And I was like, it's messed up. So she goes to, Gazelle goes to Melvina. And listen, I would have been like, I don't know. I wouldn't have had nothing good to say to her because she was a mean girl, like I said. But she was basically like trying to extend an olive branch and be nice to her. And she actually took the olive branch. I was shocked. She was like, okay, yeah. She was like, is there any more places on that council that I can, sit on? She was like, sure, we can like, pencil you in somewhere. Yeah. And I was like, okay, we're off to a decent start. and all that was resolved. And then turns out that Robert, he managed to move his practice basically to where they were in Monroe, so he didn't have to get on the transit. He didn't have to like wake up 5,000 hours early to have to get on the transit to get to work on time. I thought that that was actually pretty smart if you think about it, you know. And they had like this little outside picnic. Morgan was hanging out with, you know, what was that boy's name? I'll put it somewhere on the screen. And they start dating, and she was like, "Oh, Morgan has somebody, shucky shucky." And she was like, "Please don't embarrass me." And then Nancy and Edward showed up again to, like, you know, thank God they just gave them a normal present. They were like, "Don't worry, we're not gonna ever give you nothing else like what we gave you before, because we can't go through that again." And everything was normal. You had the little scene at the end with Gazelle and Robert. Very heartwarming scene. I was like, man, this was good. Like, I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of movies where the sequel is usually not like good or as good as the first one. But honestly, like, I don't know, man. This one might be contending with the first one. It was good. I did like it. It was funny. Like that part where she was switching back and forth, and the Pip was trying to get her to understand you are turning into the evil stepmother, and she was like in denial. That was hilarious. Him turning into that cat, that was funny. But anyways, this was pretty good. Like I said, I didn't appreciate the blatant witchcraft that y'all are passing off as magic, but I'll get off the soapbox. I did wonder if they were ever gonna make like another one like this one. So whenever they came out with this movie, I was pretty excited. Now I am wondering now if they're gonna make another one, or if they're gonna like do like a spin-off, or if they're gonna like do something like this, but not necessarily like another sequel, you know, because I feel like it's good where it is. Like, it's perfect where it is, just these two movies. But to have something sort of like this, because I feel like we're a little overdue for a movie like Camelot, or something like that, to that nature. I would love that. I would love a movie like that. But I don't know, like, if that's in the making or in the works, or it's gonna be anytime soon. Like I said, this was a cute movie. It was, you know, like I said, I had my, you know, dislikes, like I do in every movie. So please, you know, spare me the, oh, you're always, you know, this is a normal thing for me. But anyways, y'all tell me what y'all think down in the comments below.